everyone, and welcome to today's video. So today we're taking a look at Snow by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. So this video is in two halves. The first half is going to explain how to play it. No prior theory knowledge needed for that one. It's all going to be in frets, strings and numbers. Then the second half, we're going to relate all that back to the CAGED system. So for tone, if you are trying to match the tone that's on the recording, I recommend the neck pick with a Strat, fairly cleanish amp tone, maybe with a little bit of reverb, and that'll get you in the right ballpark tonally for this track. Okay, so this song is what's known as a 4-chord song, and as it says on the tin, it's got 4 chords on it, but specifically a 4-chord song refers to the chords minor 6, 4, 1 and 5 in this instance, for anyone who's interested in chord theory or the natural number system. And the way that we're going to play this, we've got 4 shapes and we're going to shift them around the neck, and then we're going to apply a picking pattern to each one. The picking pattern is the same for each shape. So once we've got it on the first chord, it becomes a lot easier on the second, third and fourth chords. And the way we're going to play this first shape, our first finger goes on fret 4 of the G, ring finger is on fret 6 of the A string, little finger's on fret 6 of the D just underneath it. If you prefer to use these 2 fingers and play it that way, that's absolutely fine. I think that's the way John Frusciante actually plays it. I feel more comfortable this way, so that's how I'm going to play this one. But once we've got that shape on, we're going to go A and then D with 2 downstrokes. And then we're going to go G and D, up on the G, down on the D. Once we've got those 4 notes, we're going to take these 2 fingers off, whichever 2 we've decided to use, and we're going to hammer on from fret 4 to fret 6 on the G, and then pull back off again. So that gives us, and you might notice I'm playing that a little bit harder than the other notes. This is something that John Frusciante does, accenting that hammer on anytime we hear on any of the 4 chords that we do. It'll make more sense when I play it all as like one complete kind of cycle of the first chord in a second. So our last 2 notes after we've done that, our third finger is going to go to fret 6 on the D, and our first finger is still where it was on fret 4 of the G. So once through that chord slowly, and then up to speed. And we can hear there that accented upstroke really kind of gives it the pulse of the song. This is one of those songs where it does need a little bit of speed kind of injected in it to sound more like the song. Some songs sound like the same kind of feel of the song regardless of the speed, but this is one of the ones where it does need a little bit of speed in it. I would suggest practicing it slow and then worry about kind of speeding things up once things are feeling comfortable. But that's our first chord. For our second chord, our index finger still hasn't moved. Our ring finger is going to play fret 6 on the D string, little finger is going to play fret 7 on the A string. Again, if you prefer to use those 2 fingers, you can do. And we're going to play exactly the same picking pattern now. So down, down, up, down on the A, D, G, D. Then we're going to hammer on from 4 to 6 on the G. Go back to that 6 on the D with the ring finger. Finish with an upstroke on the fret 4 of the G. So if we play those 2 chords back to back. Now our third chord, exactly the same as the second chord, just up a string. So now on the E, A and D, going E, A, D, A, down, down, up, down, hammering on, and then that's 6 and 4 again. This guitar is buzzing a little bit on the lower strings. Normally I keep the guitar in half-step tuning. I've tuned it back up to standard for this song, so we're in the right key, but I have got a little bit of buzz going on here. So that's our third chord. For our fourth chord, we're going to jump back down a string, so essentially the same as our second chord, slide it up by 2 frets. So now little finger's in fret 9 of the A, third finger is fret 8 of the D, first finger is fret 6 of the G. Exactly the same picking pattern again, so down, down, up, down, hammering on, and then the 6 and 4 down, up at the end there. One more time. And again, trying to accent that hammer on whenever we play that. And that's our first 4 chords, so I'm going to play each of those 4 back to back now quite slowly. Now every time, or every other time we play this I should say, we're going to swap this last chord for an inversion of it. An inversion means the same chord but where the notes have been reshuffled. So essentially the same 3 notes is the same chord, just a lower voicing of it. And the way that we're going to play that one, our ring finger is going to play fret 6 on the E string. First finger is going to play fret A and D, but so barred across them on fret 4. And I'm going to go down, down, up, down, exactly the same picking pattern again. Hammering on, and then the ring finger goes up to the 6, back down to 4 on the D. One more time. Now if I play it all the way through quite slowly, and then up to speed. As I say, it does tend to take on more of the feel of the song when we do put that speed in, but I would hold off trying to play it too fast until it is feeling fairly comfortable under your fingers. A couple of ways to practice this though, because what can happen quite often is where we get each chord up to speed individually, but then we have a gap between each chord, so that sounds like this, while we're trying to land that next chord. Couple of ways to practice this. First one, just grab the chords one at a time and kind of take the picking pattern out of it, and this is purely just practicing the left hand then. The other thing you can do, just practice the right hand, so keep the same chord on all the time and just keep drilling through that picking pattern. Last thing I'd suggest, play each chord one at a time, but at the end of it play the first note of the next chord. And what that does, it trains our hands to always be expecting that that next chord, and we're prioritizing the beat one so that we don't end up with any gaps. So combining those 3 different ways of practicing it should mean that in a relatively short space of time, we kind of focus practice, we should have this to a reasonable tempo. If you want to use a metronome, you can, that's fine, but the main thing is just trying to be actively listening whilst you're playing through this and trying to keep the tempo without any gaps and all kind of a fluent speed altogether. So to take us through the CAGED system then, as a kind of brief introduction to it, the CAGED system is a way of playing different chords or scales or arpeggios around the neck, and it works on a series of shapes. So it works on a C shape, A shape, G shape, E shape and D shape. Hence the open chords that we have, so they're named after whatever kind of our open position of the shape of the chord, scale, arpeggio is that we're playing. So I'm going to demonstrate this with major chords to begin with. We play our C chord, A, G, E and D. So these are the shapes that we're looking at here. So this is a C shape of a C chord, A shape of an A chord, G shape of a G chord, and so on. So the way that we're going to use these, if we know that this is a major chord and we slide it up a fret, we should in theory get the next major chord. Where we can run into problems is because this chord has open strings, so obviously if we move here, the open strings won't move with us. So the best way to consider this concept, particularly with chords, is if you replace these 3 fingers with these 3, because now our index finger can be ready to act almost like a capo. So I'm going to place this behind the nut. It's not doing anything at the moment. Sounds exactly the same whether it's on or not, but it's important to leave it there to kind of visualize this concept, because now if we slide everything up a fret, that index finger is going to slide onto fret 1, and we now have our C shape chord, still our C shape that we had over here. We've slid it up a fret and we're now rooted off a C sharp note, so this gives us a C sharp major chord, and this is a C shape of a C sharp major. If I move it up another fret, I get a C shape, C major shape of a D chord. So now my little finger is on the D, and my root note is the D chord. Again, if I move up another fret, but it's now D sharp. One more fret, C shape, and this is now of an E chord. Remember that chord, we're going to come back to this in a second. One more demonstration. This is also where our bar chords come from. So if we take, for example, the first chord of Down in California. So this is an A minor chord, we bar right across fret 5. Little finger goes on fret 7 of the D string, ring finger goes on fret 7 of the A. This is actually an E shape, and the reason that's an E shape, if we back this, go back 1 fret at a time until our index finger passes the nut, and we look at what shape we're left with. If we were to play that in a more recognisable way with these two fingers instead of the ring and little finger, that gives us an E minor chord. So that's in this position, it's an E minor shape of an E chord. But moved up here, that would be an E minor shape of an F, E minor shape of a F sharp, E minor shape of a G, and so on, sharp, until we get back to the A. So this is the same principle that bar chords work. So if you ever played bar chords, you are using a caged concept. It's just the cage system tends to be introduced after the concept of bar chords. So to relate this back to snow, we take the first chord in our song. It's a little bit unusual looking to begin with. It's not a chord that comes up a whole lot, but if we were to bar this finger across all 6 strings, that becomes that E minor bar chord shape we've just had. Again, if we were to move it up a fret, that first chord down in California. So we know that this is an E shape, an E minor shape, because it corresponds with the E minor chord, and our root note is on G sharp, 4 of the E. So that gives us a G sharp minor chord. We know it's a minor chord, rooted on G sharp. It's a G sharp minor in an E shape, if we're being specific. Next chord that we've got, and this is where I said to remember that C shape of an E chord. If we play the little finger on 7 of the A, ring on 6 of D, first on 4 of G. Now if we bar that finger and put our middle finger on fret 5 of the B, we'll see that this is now drawing that C shape with these 3 fingers, and we've got our little finger rooted on E. Again, if we need to double check, walk it back down 1 fret at a time. Our first finger passes the knot, and we'll see what shape we're left with. It's a C major shape of an E chord, because our little finger's on E. So this is a C major shape of E. That gives us E major. So far we've got G sharp minor and E major. Next chord. So what we've got going on here, this is actually a G shape. Again, if we walk it back 1 fret at a time till the first finger crosses the knot. So now we've got, obviously we've only got half the G chord. Typically we would play a G like this. The G is very difficult to actually kind of play the full chord with your first finger behind the nut like this. Doable, but it's certainly not comfortable and not convenient halfway through a song. So we tend to see the G shape when played as a caged idea, either as the E, A and D or the G, B and E strings. In this instance it's the E, A and D. So again, if we walk up 1 fret at a time, we know that's our G shape of G, G shape of G sharp, G shape of A, G sharp of A sharp, G sharp of B. We can check that if we play a B major chord, same sounding chord, does the same harmonic job. So far we've got G sharp minor, we've got E major, B major, and now our last chord, if we know that it's exactly the same as our second chord but 2 frets higher, and this was an E major, if we move it 1 fret that'll give us F, and another fret will give us F sharp. And again, this is our C shape, C major shape, because we're playing a C major chord with these fingers, and then we've just slid it up so it roots off an F sharp. So our full chord progression then gives us G sharp minor, E major, B major, and then F sharp major. I realise I've gone quite fast. I'm trying to kind of stop this being a 20-minute long video. So if this is kind of seeming a little bit confusing at the moment, it might be worth rewinding the video to the start of this section again. But the main thing to consider is whatever shape, if you back it all the way back so your first finger crosses the knot, see what shape you're left with, and that will tell you whether it's a major chord or a minor chord, and then take it back to where it was and see what the root note of that chord was. So again, I'll demonstrate that one more time with that C major chord. Play it with these 3 fingers, put the first finger behind the knot, move it up 1, C shape of a C sharp chord, C major shape of a D chord, C major shape of a D sharp, C major shape of an E. So that all those chords I just played were all a C major shape, but just different root notes. So the CAGED system is quite an in-depth theory concept. It's a very useful theory concept, but there is quite a lot to it. It's not something that can be fully explained on the back end of one YouTube video. But I am happy to do another one if people are interested. I can do a more in-depth look at the CAGED system. But I'd recommend watching watch the section again if it didn't make full sense on the first pass. Watch other people's definitions of it. There's an awful lot of lessons out there on the CAGED system, and as I say, everyone kind of explains it a little bit differently. So it's well worth checking out. It's one of those things that I think, and most people will attest to who've learnt the CAGED system, it just requires a kind of constant chipping away. It's not really a one singular light bulb moment. But I'd definitely recommend it, certainly for anyone who is interested in the style of John Frusciante. If anyone's got any questions, be it about how to play the track, the CAGED system, tone, and anything else, let me know in the comment section, or you can send me a message at James Franklin Guitar. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions. But other than that, thank you very much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.